So welcome to our Art Online Chats in Isolation. I'm delighted to be joined by My Dog Size down in Southsea. That's where you are, isn't it?
Absolutely, down on the sunny south coast. They say it's always sunny in Southsea, but it's absolutely pouring down today. So yeah.
Oh, is it really?
Not every day. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. I'm watching you sit outside, and it's snows.
That's not like England in April, is it? Really?
We've had our summer, right? That was last week.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. The last couple of days. I wanted to talk to you about your, how you're coping, basically, how you're coping with this sort of isolation period, and if there's anything. I know that I've seen on social media that you've been ramping up your Free Out Friday, initiative. So maybe let's start with what it is that you've been doing to maybe give back in this period, and how you've been ramping up that Free Out Friday.
Well, it's been a strange one for me. I'm kind of backtracking slightly in that about 6 months ago, I had to think about what was going to happen in 2020, what was going to be my thing, and was I going to focus on running around painting walls or gallery shows or doing something different. And I decided I was going to dive headlong into a really, really massive project, which would happen in 2020. I got a venue, a 3,000 square meter venue. I got funding in place from the Arts Council, a real game-changing event that was going to open in September, October. And I have been hiring project managers and,
Oh, wow.
big thing, turn it into something really massive. And then, of course, COVID hit.
Yes.
And so when you have been driven towards working for something 7 days a week, just headlong, it involves huge amounts of building and contractors and health and safety and just things that I hadn't done before. I'd always kept it punk, kept it really, really small scale. The sort of dawning realization that having invested a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time into a project, actually that's not going to happen. It was a real slap across the face, I think, for everybody. So my way of dealing with it, as lots of artists, is just like you get in the studio and then you start throwing paint around and then just see what happens from there. So, you spoke about the Free Art Friday. I generally put a piece out a week, but in order to meditate, to clear my head, to kind of put off what had happened, what was happening, was to dive into that side of things. And so, I put 50 pieces together, and then I do my 1 hour daily exercise around the city, find a spot, put it out, socially aware, so I'm not putting teasers out so it doesn't become a treasure hunt and there's risk of social distancing issues. So I now put a piece out, and then once it's found, I post a picture as to where it was. So we kind of get what's going on. But it's been lovely, and then I'm trying to ramp that up. So last week I did one postal piece, so people could just put a shout out and nominate somebody. This week I've done you can nominate somebody in the NHS, and then I get it posted out. Conscious of the fact that not everybody lives where I do, and if they want to get hold of a piece, it's a bit frustrating watching me wave it in front of their noses on social media. So just trying to give people a chance, and it's been great. It's been great for me to see the kind of reaction to people enjoying it, and get that going. And actually, I've used the opportunity to hit a couple of walls as well, which has been nice. So keeping the right places, the Everyman with a rainbows everywhere. I'm just, really conscious of the fact of my LGBT community friends. I wonder what they feel about this rainbow being now appropriated in a very, very different way. Do they feel like they've lost their rainbow flag? Does it come back to the LGBTQ community afterwards, or what? Where does that go? Anyway, so
so you're incorporating the Everyman, because the Everyman is the big. I like to think of it as the hug character.
Yeah,
because I've always seen it with the hug.
Yeah,
that's the Everyman, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So and I always use a really bright, colourful background with my free art pieces that I'm going for that one. But this time, the opportunity to separate it out into a rainbow was a nice thing to do. And then, I've been hitting out a couple of spots. There was, Doug Gillen that does Fifth Wall TV. He did a post the other day about how street artists are reacting with their street pieces and how basically everyone's using masks. And he was just asking that question, why are all these street artists using masks? And I messaged back, why? Because we're all lazy shits and we don't have to paint a nose and a mouth if we've got a mask painted over the top. So, there are a couple of new of my quiet little voices characters, my little kind of strange creatures with those masks on that are socially distanced with tape to divide them and bits and pieces. So it's been a nice opportunity to dive back into painting walls and bit of gallery time on a nice twist to the original downer of this project. Pulling is that it's the embers were dying, but there's a couple of sparks that I hope will lead into something happening maybe at the end of the year, but not in the same format and the same way that it was before. So my last week has been diving back into trying to kind of blow on those embers in some format to try and create something. But we're creative, right? We come across problems, and we have to try and find interesting ways to overcome those. And it can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but
I suppose that's what happens, isn't it? You get a period like this, something really off the wall hits you from the side, knocks out all your plans. And I suppose artists, as well as other people in society, are having to innovate, right? Having to look for different ways of doing things.
Yeah, and I didn't think that, you saw it coming. We just saw it coming, and slowly coming towards us. And you think, well, it's not going to affect me. My project's not until much later in the year. This is gonna be fine. I spend my time locked away in a studio. It will all, it will blow around outside, and everyone else will be affected, not me. And then, 2 days after our Arts Council bid came, the message came back. We're not funding anything now.
What was it? Are you able to say what sort of project it was, that big piece that you had in mind?
No, because these embers might leave something still
there, are they? They still just needs to be cultivated.
They are glowing, and they are being cultivated by Zoom meeting upon Zoom meeting upon support from lots of people that are working on. So
I bet you've never been on so many Zoom meetings or sort of internet calls. I think is such a new thing now, isn't it? That's it. That's the way we live now. That's the way we do things.
Yeah, I don't have Wi-Fi in the studio in order to try and be productive. But of course, everything is happening now via Zoom meetings. So by the frequency in which I'm visiting the studio the last couple of weeks has been pretty low. So I'm looking forward to not having a Zoom meeting to arrange so that I can hide back in the studio again and carry on throwing a bit more paint around.
I wanted to go back to your, your Free Art Fridays. How did people? It's free art every day now, I suppose, isn't it, to some extent? But how do people react when you're doing this? Because that's why I've always loved the fact that you give this art away. I just think it's amazing, and how wonderful it would be just to come across and stumble across a piece of work that you create. What's the reaction been?
Well, it's changed over the years. It's been going for a long time, 17 years, with a piece. I think there are a couple of exceptions, but pretty much every week. And to start with, I'm sure most of it ended up in the bin with the street sweepers. I remember staying and watching one piece very, very early on, and actually literally watching the street sweeper pick it up, put it in his yellow cart, and carry on walking. But that's changed over time, especially in a city that's knows that I'm doing that. So we have in the past had lots of fun posting a picture with a little bit of a clue, and then standing nearby and watching cars screech up and people run around and kind of doing that. But it's been lovely. I've been really, really lucky. I'm not posting clues as to where they are, so they're literally people randomly stumbling across, which for me is the nicest thing. But there hasn't been a single person that hasn't picked it up that hasn't sent me a message just to that what they're going through, what they're dealing with, links with working in the NHS, or with family members that are ill, or just dealing with lots and lots of stuff, and how it's lifted their spirits in some way. And it's a bit of paint on cardboard, right? But the value that you can add is pretty lovely. It's a really nice thing to have that little message coming back from someone saying, I had a really shit day today, and I was walking home and found stumbled across this and picked it up, and it's properly cheered me up. So if I can do a little bit like that to help people out, then
it's a nice thing to do.
It's easy, right? Yeah, it's what absolutely lifts your own spirits as well.
And how did you what happened with that? How did you start it in the first place? What was the genesis of thought that led to your Free Art Friday in the first place?
Well, I suppose I stumbled across street art slightly late. I wasn't a tagger, I wasn't a writer. I was always creative. In the 90s, I was doing the rave backdrops, and 80s it was Mates leather jackets, and so I was always in that creative game, and then stumbled on what was happening up in East London and Bristol with that street art scene, and just thought, right, I want in. I don't quite sure how I want in, but I want in. But at that point, I was still a teacher. Married, my first son had arrived, and so that kind of pillar of the community, right? How can I justify going and territorial pissing on people's walls when when I'm in this sort of in this position there? So people often call it especially early days, calling what I was doing was kind of fluffy street art. My way around wanting to be part of that scene was, right, okay, I'm going to paint something and I'm going to put it on the street, so it still has the urban aesthetic. I can still choose the location that it has to be done in, but I'm not causing any criminal damage. Can't get arrested for it that I was aware of, other than possibly littering. And then I thought, well, okay, if I can get arrested for littering, my solution was, instead of taking canvases and putting them out on the street, what if I find crap that's already on the street, bring it back home again, work on it in the evenings when I'm not, doing the day job, and then taking it and putting it back where it came from. And then by the end of the day, it had gone. So actually, I was tidying up the streets of the city that I lived in, which I thought, that's kind of doing my bit to clean up the streets of Southsea, but equally being able to sort of step into that game. And I wasn't the only one. Adam Neat was there dropping work around the city of London, years before I was doing that. But it just fitted my needs. It fitted my timetable of being when I could create, how much time and effort I could put into a piece before I could put it out. It grew from there. I met other artists along the way who were like, why aren't you painting walls? And it was like, ooh, yeah, didn't know I could. And so, someone showed me a spray can, and then I moved into this sort of scene in the way that it's known now, street art, we call it street art scene, but the mural painting scene, which, I think runs in parallel with what's happening in the kind of the street art world, I suppose.
Yeah, so wow, so you started off doing the Free Art Friday, then you moved into street art beyond that. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's great. I get the opportunity to straddle, well, I suppose to straddle all three elements, in that I can still do the street stuff, which is the stuff that I really love, through Free Art Friday or paste ups or, little interventions that are going along. I can still go paint murals, so it gives me the opportunity to travel, meet up with all the other street artists that are working around the world. And then I do the gallery stuff, and that's my bread and butter, the releases that I do that can help make the other two happen,
Great. Well, Paul, My Dog Size, thanks very much for talking to me.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're a real delight to talk to you about, and keep doing the Free Art Friday stuff. I'm sure you're bringing a lot of smiles to a lot of people's face, which is what we all need right now. So thanks absolutely, a lot for that.
Yeah, completely. No worries. Nice to meet you.